On today's episode of WatchJRGo, it's been 2 years since I bought the biggest shop on YouTube. How's it been going since then? Well, I'm gonna tell you. What is going on, guys? I am WatchJRGo, and today, like I said, I'm here in the shop to recap the last 2 years and maybe stop crashing things and talk about the bad decisions I made when buying this building, or the things that didn't work out that well. We're gonna take a quick look around this giant building now, kind of recap the things we've done. As you can see from the outside, all of the guttering, the roof, you guys know all of that stuff's new. It's got a brand new TPO roof. Tons of work had to be done on this building before we could really use it. And then the building over here, the other 10,000 square foot of my 20,000 square foot compound here, is now sold, of course. It closes in just a few days, and I'm down to one 10,000 square foot building. And after the roof, we made many other improvements to this building as well, including new liner panel almost all the way through the building at this point, ripping every single piece of conduit and wiring out of this building and starting from scratch so that it would actually be nice. Obviously, it was an absolute dump when I moved in. The floors were trash. There were holes in the floor. This building was an absolute disaster. And after all of that, I've kind of realized it would have been a lot smarter financially to build a building from scratch. Honestly, it probably would have been cheaper to start from scratch versus what I did here. And the end result of starting with a brand new building would have been really nice looking walls with no holes in the insulation that would have held up forever because I wouldn't be welding like the welding shop that it was previously. We also went through and replaced every single man door while deleting that one. We fixed all of the garage doors. We got all those working. We added remote openers for the garage doors. We replaced the garage door in the detail bay. The amount of money that was spent to bring this building back in line with something that was even okay to work in was astronomical. The air conditioning didn't work when I moved in. There was no heat because they had a propane tank running those heaters, and of course they took the propane tank, which would have been a nightmare in the first place, so we had to go to natural gas, which was crazy money. If you guys remember the prices on some of this stuff, the roof, 70, the floors, 12 or something like that, the natural gas, 6, untold amounts of money in like walls and electrical, and I don't know, 15, 16, probably close to 20,000 in total electrical and liner panel, and the lights up there. Of course, 15,000 more for the TV. I don't know how much money was in the rack, but there's a lot. Just a crazy amount of money to build the mega shop, or the biggest shop on YouTube, that I was going for. And obviously the end goal of this shop was the Fantasy Factory, one of the best shows that was ever made. I wanted to build the Fantasy Factory for cars, and I think we did a pretty good job getting there. And now for some of the mistakes I've made. The very first mistake I made was not spending a lot of time here before we bought this building. When I walked into the building with Zach and I, we looked around and I was like, this is amazing. The dream place to make YouTube videos about working on cars, build the Fantasy Factory for cars, and just do whatever we wanted with this much space. The problem is, we didn't really think about how it would be used versus how the building was built to be used. And while we were touring it, like I said, we didn't spend enough time just hanging out in here and listening to the trains. I think we might have heard one train pass the entire time. Obviously, you guys know the story. I put in the very first bid on this thing because we saw it, and I bid $1 on opening day. I was like the first registered bidder. And somehow at the end of it, I won the thing at the very last day, at the very last minute, in a bidding war with one guy. And we were just going up 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and he'd change the increments, and then I'd go back to 1,000. And eventually I think he just got tired of bidding, which is what let me win this building. Another thing you underestimate in a 30-minute viewing of a building is humans need to use the bathroom. And of course, when I bought this, I was like, well, we got bathrooms next door, that'll be just fine. Well, while selling that building, I really need to get these bathrooms done, and of course there was no sewer to the building at all. And I underestimated what that was gonna cost as well. It was astronomical, for $15,000 almost just to go under the concrete, and we don't even know what the final total is on the plumbing so far because they haven't finished the new mains and all that crazy stuff. So the plumbing and sewer are a crazy project that has just kind of drug on. Also, the timing of me buying this place was unfortunate because right after when we started building everything, it was COVID, and all of the metal prices and wood prices skyrocketed to the highest they have ever been, setting all-time high records all over the place, and of course, making it really hard to keep building the fantasy factory plans that I wanted. And then there's the bills. I made an entire video breaking down the bills on this warehouse, the monthly costs, the insurance, the mortgage, what we thought the bills were going to be when I first bought the building. That was, of course, just days after I bought the building, and I had a bit of an idea. I had talked to the electrical company, I knew what the previous bills had been, we had a little bit of an idea. But when it came time to pay the bills over a 2-year span, I got a much better idea of what they cost. Sometimes between the two buildings, it can cost me $10,000 a month for mortgage, insurance, and bills and property taxes, which is outrageous. So at least now I've learned a lot and I know what things are gonna cost me, and what it's gonna cost me is about double what I thought it was gonna be in the first videos we made. Once you add it all up and then you add in some AC and some heat in the winter, it's a very different picture, especially with both buildings running HVAC. It's definitely a lot of money. And the last mistake, this building is way too big. I love the size of it, I love the idea of it, but with 22-foot ceilings in the center and 18-foot out here at the eaves, it's incredibly expensive to heat and cool. It's awesome having a ceiling where you have unlimited height, but you do not need that. I truly wish the building ended right here. That would be the ideal size and perfect for lifts and everything else that I do. The last mistake I made, only being in the building for about 30 minutes during the walkthroughs, is I think I only ever heard one train the entire time we were looking at the building. As soon as we closed on the building and I started being here, trains come through about every 15 minutes. Of course, today, there hasn't been a train in hours, but it's because I'm not shooting a car video. If I was, there would be a train every 15 minutes, making sure that I cannot work. Where this building's at, there's this train crossing, there's one 1 mile that way, and then there's one every quarter mile times 4. So you literally have non-stop train honks for about 15 minutes with every train. And of course I have to wait till the train completely clears before I can start recording again, because it shakes the entire building. So I've worked incredibly hard not to subject you guys to that stuff for 2 years straight. We have to stop recording from the very first honk, because you hear it on that camera even when they're like 2+ miles down the road, and then you hear them all the way to the next intersection, and that's when I get to start recording again. So the biggest mistake I made was not spending a bunch of time here the very first day and listening to the trains and seeing what it was gonna be like. It's the Wild West out here. So the takeaways of the mistakes I made in the 2 years since I bought this building were mostly just how I bought the building. If you're doing this yourself, build a smaller building. That's probably thing one. And location, 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 that could be 1 or 2. And don't underestimate the bills. The bills will be probably double what you expect, especially when the weather is unpredictable and you have nothing you can do to solve that problem, obviously. I absolutely love what we built here though. I'm not complaining at all. I just wanted to give you guys an update on the building. And if you talk about the mistakes and then the positives, people just like that more. That's how it works out. It must be a psychology thing. Anyway, it's been wild. Floors, roofs, walls, doors, lights. We started over on this building because it was a dump and I did not understand the project I was taking on at the time. But with Eric's help, my brother's help, Zach's help, Robbie's help, everybody that worked on this building, we did something absolutely crazy. Also, a huge thank you to the sponsors for making a lot of this stuff possible. The Hooters video wall, the Motul Lounge, the Avalon King detail bay. They basically made it possible to get the plumbing in here, for us to wash cars inside, which has been amazing, to build what we have so far, all the steel work on the mezzanine. It's been absolutely wild. And of course, the biggest thank you to you guys for watching and helping make all this possible and having ideas for us to execute on as well. To wrap this whole thing up, my advice would be to build a brand new building if you're gonna do it. That way you don't have to contend with the insane amount of comments just hating on the walls when there's nothing you can do about it. I know everybody watches Westland Diesel videos. I don't care what your take is on it, but you guys have heard him talk in his shop and it's literally unbearable. I love his videos, but they did liner panel to the roof, and it's the most perfect example on YouTube of a shop that the acoustics are horrific in. So in here, the acoustics are fine. I can have a conversation, I can yell, and there is no reverb. So that's exactly what I wanted, exactly what I told you guys I was gonna pull off. But there's also no way to fix this insulation. To wrap over the insulation, it's gonna cost like $20,000 to literally just spray on glue and roll new material over it. So there's no fixing that. Back to my advice, build a brand new building. It's the best way to do it. You will save yourself so much money. I probably spent a new building just in where we're at so far on this build out. And also on engines, don't fix them, buy new engines. Same thing I've been saying forever. I know I was gonna rebuild that engine, but I already told you guys there's a new engine on the way. It should be here tomorrow. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop, WatchJRGo.com for cool shirts, not like this. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. And I'll talk to you next time. Heard the first 2 honks about a minute ago. Right here, you gotta stop recording pretty much. Video's already ruined. 8:51. I think this train will probably be clear at 8:56, 7, somewhere in there. So quite a few crossings to go before it gets to this one. 2 crossings left. We're not to the close crossing yet. At least it's a nice night. 91 degrees outside. I didn't even talk about the traffic. As soon as the trains leave, everyone floors it to jump the train tracks, both directions. Now, the upside of that is I've got to see some really good jumps. There's nothing I love more than when the gates start coming down and people just launch their cars across. It is highly entertaining. So that's been fun. Honda 70, Honda 90. That's pretty cool. This is how long the camera would have been off at those first honks, because I can hear it then, and I know you guys can hear it on video then. It's incredibly loud how that shotgun mic picks that up. I think the close crossing just came down. You can hear the signal. Here come the horns. Outside's not too bad, but inside it's already kind of, you can feel the rumble in the building. 100 foot from train tracks, don't do that. Also in my head, I always thought it would be fine because my grandma's house had about 500 feet to train tracks and they were down in a valley. And it was always awesome. We'd watch the trains, super entertaining, but there were no crossings anywhere around that. So we never, oh listen, a good one. Get it, boy! Ah, I love the people jumping the tracks. The other train downside. It's double tracked right here. And sometimes they'll sit here for 3 hours. Block all the roads. This is a big boy. It sounded like 3 engines running and the 4th one was off. This is probably one very big train. We've definitely seen them close every street for like 3 miles, because these trains can be 2-3 miles long. And they'll just park and sit there and shut down the entire city for hours. That's the craziest thing. We got time to kill. Get the air conditioning all cooled down. That was one bouncy car. Oh, that was a short one. For 4 engines, it was incredibly short. And without a engine out on the back end of that train, it's pretty quiet too. There you go. That's like a typical train wait. Stop recording at the first honk. 8:56, right on the money. You're out of commission for 5 to 10 minutes every time, sometimes 15, and then every 15 minutes there's another one. So you can only record for a few minutes, and if you're in the middle of doing some work that you want to record, you can't do it. So that might have been my biggest mistake, the train. Oh well.